All right. Hi, guys. Looks like a lot of people are having trouble with their camera. Ah, or still snacking. I don't want people watching me eat either. It's dinner time, right? Yes. All right. Trying to get everyone in here. Okay. So how's everybody doing with like where everything's located? Oh, you're eating dinner, yeah. Anyone still have any questions, confusion, anything? I'll take that as a no. Okay.
I'm sorry, I had one question.
Sure.
So where would we find the approval forms?
Oh, on the labs page of the website, week 1 drop down.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I have one question? Like
Sure.
I didn't put the APA format for the 3 article in the document that I submit to you.
The first week
Um,
because I haven't taught it yet, I kind of let it go. As long as you have like a URL or the name of the article so I can find it, I'm good.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
But
do that.
I'm going to teach you today. So from here on out, you have to know. Okay.
Okay.
So has anyone else used or had teachers say use APA format? You probably had them say it, but you're kind of like, well, how do I do that? Right. Yeah. So this class is where you're supposed to learn that. I don't know why they put it in the sophomore year because before now you've already taken, several psychology classes that you needed it in. But I guess no one's perfect. Okay, so what I was thinking was we have a project coming up which I normally kind of tell you about on Wednesday, but I thought if I could cram it in tonight, then that would give you guys Wednesday to not have to sit here and listen to me babble on, but you can like connect with your partners and start this project. So maybe I'll explain it a little more. Well, what I did was, just in case anyone was wondering, let me share my screen, why I did this. Ooh, hopefully we get as many people in here as possible. I've got some more people joining us. So if you had noticed in the discussion groups that I created for you guys, I had included, let me just open one. Okay, try to get the cameras fixed so I can tell that people are here and listening and getting everything from the class. But so let me find a group that hasn't made any comments because we don't need it. All right, so for like group 1, for example, I provided everyone with a link for a Zoom meeting for their group, and that's just for your group. There's the password and everything you would need. So you would have to kind of coordinate with your group. And the purpose of this is so that you guys can use that to create your presentations, but it can also be useful for if you guys wanted to have sort of a face-to-face meeting to collaborate on your group work that you will be completing and stuff. So you can use it for that. Um, Generally, I would expect people for the next couple of weeks. I think I have it scheduled for the next couple of weeks, just to make sure. You guys will be giving short presentations on doing sort of literature review, which we're going to go over for chapter 2 on how you're going to do that and what is expected. But if you notice it, let's see. Oh, good. I gave you, that's good. Okay, so it's actually in the 4th week. You notice this something called presentations, lit review, and sourcing, and it's for week 4 and week 5, I believe. And I will be having, there's 16 groups, so it'd be like 4 groups each day presenting their lit review and sourcing presentations. So if you're in a group and the day that you're assigned to do your presentation and maybe one of your group members says, oh, I have this emergency in my family, I can't make it. Well, you guys can create your presentations in a Zoom meeting and I'll just play it during our class meeting time. So what you would do is you would schedule with your partner, let's meet at such and such a time on the Zoom, and you would give your presentation. Email me and tell me, me and my partner made our presentations last Friday at 6 o'clock, for example. Can you please use that for our presentation? Does that make sense to you?
So
I hope no one's
we
confused.
gonna like, you mean that we gonna record the presentation? And,
If you have to, if you have to. You don't have to. It's there kind of as a backup measure in case like something happens with your group member, they have an emergency, they can't make it during class time for some reason. You can record your presentations, right? You can also use that Zoom meeting to just collaborate with your partners. You can use, someone else is coming in. You can use the Zoom meeting to make practice presentations before class time. So you can say, hey, meet me on Saturday at 1 o'clock. We'll practice giving our presentation. So that's kind of what it's for. It's for you guys to collaborate with your partners, do practice. If you have an emergency and you can't give your presentation during class time, you can use it and tell me about it. I'll save it and present it in class for you. You see what I'm saying? Okay. It's just kind of, I found Zoom is very useful for us in a lot of ways, more than just doing class time. So, okay, so let me go through. We're going to go through lecture 2 real quick, and then I'll explain what that presentation is for. And I'll give you Wednesday to collaborate for your presentations, and you won't have to meet me for a lecture. Does that make sense? So we will not meet Wednesday at 5.
Is the professor frozen on anyone else's screen?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was just
frozen.
me, but
Yeah,
yeah,
she
she's
is.
frozen.
I just thought that my my computer freeze.
Yeah, same.
I'm glad it's not just me.
Yeah, I think it's lagging.
Is that still her?
Yeah, I think that's from her.
Oh, okay.
Okay, she's back.
She's back.
I'm
Welcome
sorry.
back.
I have my connection on the wrong connection. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you
Yes.
fine.
Yeah.
I have 2 different connections. One's 5G and one's like 2G or something. And if my computer decides to hook to 2G and someone uses my microwave, it turns me off. And so my kid's down there with the microwave on. Apparently my computer switched over to 2G for some reason. Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Turn off that microwave. I'm going to connect to my other connection. Okay, hold on a moment. Okay, I got it fixed. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. We fixed it. All right, so where was I? Oh, I was saying, so you won't have to meet with me on Zoom on Wednesday at 5. I'm gonna give you all the directions tonight. If it goes past an hour tonight, you can end at the hour mark if you need to, and just watch the rest later for the instructions. The video will be on the website. All right, guys, thank you. Thanks for having patience.
Excuse me. I think you freeze at the moment that you said, like something was Wednesday. Is that right?
Oh, okay. So you didn't hear that. So what I was saying was, I'm gonna go over chapter 2 and the discussion I was gonna do on Wednesday tonight, so that you guys can have Wednesday to have time. You can use that time to get together with your partners to do the planning for your projects. All right. You won't have to meet. You won't have to meet with me for lecture or anything. All right. Yeah. So basically, it's devoted to lab for you guys. Okay.
Professor,
All right.
I have a question.
Sure.
Do we know if anybody has dropped the class since, just to make sure that all the groups are in fact groups and not just individuals?
As far as I can tell, I'm at full capacity. I
Professor,
have not seen anyone drop. I have not received an email of drops yet. Crossing my fingers though.
On that note, could I ask you a quick question about the groups?
Sure.
Last week Al and I checked the groups and it was just us two in the groups, but now we have a third person. Would that be, so is that person part of our like approval project research as well as this presentation? Okay.
Yeah.
They're the same group then. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Professor?
Sure. Yeah.
Sorry to bother, but since we're on this topic, you gave me an access code and I still am not part of any group because there's an issue still happening with me trying to add, even though I've taken the course off and put my access code, there's still an issue. I am speaking with administration about it. They're trying to figure out what the issue is. However, it's just lagging and I don't have a group and I can't see any information on my Canvas, obviously.
Oh no.
So I don't know what to do because I don't want to not participate in the project. However, right now it's just not reflecting and I don't know what to do. My hands are kind of tied, unfortunately.
Let me think. Let's see, people. I wonder if I'm at over capacity. I wouldn't be surprised. Hold on, I don't want to show any grades or anything. See how many people are in my class. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm at 34. It's my understanding that I'm allowed to have 35.
Yeah, and I know you gave me the access code because I remember you told us that you have to be at 35, or the max was 35 capacity. But my access code, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's not working.
And did you take yourself off the wait list and then try to add again?
Yeah, I 100% did that, and it's just for whatever reason my access or my error code that I'm receiving is stating that it's an invalid authorization code or invalid code.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the issue is, but I am speaking to administration about it. There is a representative that I'm speaking to directly. She's trying to figure it out for me. I just don't know what else to do. But I don't want to not participate in whatever assignments we have.
Okay, try some more this week. You still have all of next week to start working on this.
Okay.
Yeah, because I did give out the 10 codes, and that's all I'm allowed to have more.
No, of course. Is that what was my question? Is there a group I'm going to be assigned to, or am I going to do something by myself?
Well, if things happen. This first presentation isn't that difficult, really. You may be able to just do it on your own if worse comes to worse. Yeah, just pay close attention.
I'll keep you
All my
posted
videos will be on my
tomorrow.
website. The website is lauraconnor.com, my name.
Perfect.
And then you will find lectures in the drop down. If you go there, you'll be able to see all our videos.
Perfect. I'll keep you in the loop tomorrow, just to let you know, because I think by tomorrow they hopefully said they should have it resolved. But I'll keep you in the loop just so I can figure out what group I'm going to be in, if at all.
Okay. All right. Good luck. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Good.
Hi. Sorry, Professor. Sorry to interrupt you. I'm not sure what group I'm in.
So if you go on Canvas, what happened? OCC. So if you're on Canvas, I got kicked out for some reason. So if you're on Canvas and you see the people, you should be able to find yourself in what group you're in. Okay.
Okay. Do I just click in my name or groups?
Groups.
Oh,
groups. You'll find your name in the group.
okay. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Is that? I'm afraid to start. Is there any more questions? Okay, guys. Let's get started. Let's jam through this. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about is just the difference between what is a research question, a hypothesis, and a prediction. Research questions are kind of general. It's sort of how you're getting ideas started and thought about. You kind of think of what you did in English to sort of brainstorm a topic to write about. It's kind of what we use to do that for research, especially when you're first starting out. And they're very broad. It doesn't, it's kind of a general question, but then a hypothesis is different. It is a tentative idea or question waiting for evidence to support it or refute it, which is sort of the dictionary definition of it. It is more narrowed down and very specific. A prediction is just what it sounds like. You are predicting what the outcome to the hypothesis is. So it's what we do the research study to confirm or dispute, right? Let's see. Oh, and one important thing to know about research is that we never really truly confirm a prediction. We're always dealing in theory. We always say that a hypothesis is supported by the data, right? By research. It is never confirmed because theories, science is sort of always moving and evolving, and we're always learning more. We never arrive at a final, answer. So that's what research does. It builds and builds and builds, and we learn more and more and more. And I kind of have this diagram to kind of give you an example of the difference. So if you're posing a research question, you might ask yourself something like, are there differences among groups in terms of cell phone use while driving? And then when you formulate that into a hypothesis, narrowing it down, then you might ask it more like, do males and females differ in their use of cell phone use while driving? And then to predict it, you might predict that possibly females are more likely to use a cell phone while driving than men. That could be a prediction, waiting to be, proved or disproved. So for your research papers, in your research papers, you're going to have to write a hypothesis for your APA format papers. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to take the research question and or the hypothesis and the prediction and kind of meld them into one. An example would be, It is hypothesized that individuals who have more social support will have higher test scores. I should say will. So here you can see, I want in your research papers, you to directly say the word hypothesis. It is hypothesized that, and whatever it is, okay? So when we go into the diagram of a research paper, I'll show you where you would put that. So that is, you're going to specifically or explicitly state, it is hypothesized that. And the rest of it should include the variables you're studying and to what degree is going to happen, what is going to happen to each of those variables. So here you can see social support is one of the variables and test scores is the other variable that they're studying. And they're telling me what they expect or what they predict is going to happen to these variables. Here they're predicting that more social support will yield higher grades or higher test scores, right? So they're predicting what they think is going to happen with these two variables. Can you see how they're kind of combining the hypothesis and prediction into one sentence? Yeah. So that's kind of how I want you to formulate your hypothesis and prediction.
Did she just?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she's glitching again.
So sorry, guys. I had an animal emergency. I have a lot of cats and dogs. So there we go. Okay. So if you want to watch this in your own time, these are kind of funny. You guys have probably seen these. These are fun videos for, you know, in psychology. You can find them all over YouTube. But this one deals with, you know, research and hypotheses and stuff. What the difference between them and predictions and research questions are. Good, helpful study tool. All right, so who are we studying? This is just kind of an overview of what kinds of terminology we use when we're doing research. We might refer to the people or things or animals in our research in different ways. One way is to refer to them as subjects or respondents. We call them respondents when we're asking them questions just using a survey, right? Subjects, we might use that term if we're like performing an actual experiment on someone and then measuring the outcome. Informants are sort of how we would refer to the people if they're sort of reporting on something, you know, on their culture or maybe an event that happened, something like that. In for APA format, they really don't mind which way you use it or the difference between participants or subjects. Participants is another way. I think it sounds nicer if you use the word participants rather than subjects, but that's just me. All right, so when it comes to sources for ideas for doing research, I actually provide a source on the website or several sources. If you go to the toolbox and you go to where it says APA format papers and experiments, there's a bunch of links here for research project ideas that can like help spark an idea for a research project. Also doing your literature review may spark an idea because you might want to replicate someone else's research. Once you've come up with an idea for research, you're going to need to come up with tools and surveys and measurements to use to conduct your research. And here are a bunch of links that have a lot of different tests you can use in your research, like IQ tests, psychological instruments, all kinds of things that you might find very helpful. Okay, so, and just by observing your surroundings, you might find ideas. People are very strange, and they are often spark just ways to, so, you know, I mean, people wandering around with a mask but smoking a cigarette sort of defeats the purpose. Why would someone do that? So people themselves can spark ideas. Also, just using different theories. You might want to test a theory. Remember, we were talking about the difference between basic and applied research. Basic research is research that tests and comes up with new theory, right? So you might test a theory. That might be another thing. You might come up with research that is useful to help others, which would be applied research. And here's a bunch of different cognitive or psychological theories: state trait anxiety, cognitive dissonance. You might test that. Drive theory. I have a bunch of them listed here. And in fact, if you go to this Wikipedia link, it lists all kinds of dozens and dozens of psychological theories that you might want to test. You can look at them, see if one of them sparks an idea for you for your research for the class. Also, past research, like I was saying, how important it is to, you know, sort of hold other people's research to the fire, see if you can come up with the same outcome. So by doing the next assignment, or well, one of the next assignments, the one that you're going to do the presentation for, you're going to be sifting and looking through all kinds of research. You might find one that you would want to replicate. So, let's see here. Yeah, more like I was telling you. Journals, yeah. Let's see. I always get ahead of myself. Okay, so here we go with the library research. Has anyone used the library at OCC to find, you know, articles and stuff like that for your papers yet? No?
I used it a while ago, like a couple of semesters ago, but not that much.
Okay. I'm going to show you how to use it well, hopefully. For psychology, one of the biggest databases that psychology students and psychologists like to use is Psych Info. We have that in our library. If you go to the school library, let's see, or even the school website, let's see here. Did I get rid of it? OCC. Even on my website, I have quick links to our school, so you don't have to, you can quickly get to it. Going back and forth, see, here's the OCC library. If you're actually on the OCC homepage, the library is actually linked from here. So if you go to the services and support, you can see it here. And to find quickly the different databases, I usually just go to the databases A through Z. And a lot of ours are just under the P, you know, psychology, right? So here we go. Here is Psych Info. Okay, so here's just sort of a gander at what Psych Info looks like. All right, we'll go over through this a little bit more here in a second. Okay. Yeah, even Psych Info, depending on what school you're at, it can be laid out a little differently depending on if like you're going to Cal State Long Beach or Fullerton or OCC. They all have a Psych Info, but they might kind of be arranged and look a little different, but they all have the same basic elements. Just look and you'll find them. Okay, so there's different strategies for searching. We like to use the database, of course, our library at the schools, but also you can find great information and research using news and other parts of the web. But you must be careful about what you're looking at, and we'll go through that a little more. But you can also find stuff through Google Scholar. Also, when you're using the school database, I would recommend you saving your searches. So if you create, let's see if I can get this out of the way here. If you create a login, you can save, oops. Yes, if you create a, well, no, not here. Where'd it go? Maybe here. Yes. So if you create a login for our school library, you'll be able to save your searches and go back to them, because sometimes you can get really bogged down into searching and you'll be like, oh, I should have saved that article. Well, it's easy if you create an account in the library. Let's see. Yeah, you can also save search terms too, and you can save articles. Also, when you're doing a search, try to use different varying ways of wording something. So the example here is like, you might search angry driving, also road rage. You might end up with different things. Use the words review or meta-analysis to find literature reviews. Let me show you the difference between different types of research articles. So we talked about peer review articles, right? And that's where people do research and they submit them and they have their peers look at it, other professionals, and they kind of go through it and say, someone talking? Yes. They kind of go through it and say, oh, okay, thanks, Jasmine. They kind of go through it and say, hey, change this, fix this, or maybe you should do this with your research. And then eventually, after all the professionals take a look at your article, it'll eventually be published. And I lost my train of thought. Oh my goodness. What was I saying? Anyone tell me? Maybe here. Oh, now I know. So once you get your article published, they put it into these databases, but there's different kinds of research articles. Okay, and I'm going to kind of give you an example of a few. Okay, so here's one. So research articles are typically laid out in a certain kind of format, and I'm going to show you here. Let me go to, I was at 16, I'm going to go back. Okay, so here, let me do the end of this. So a typical research article is laid out in a specific format. It usually starts with an abstract. And the abstract is sort of a summary of the whole research article. It's like a paragraph long, typically 120 words or less. And in it, and for you guys too, when you write your APA format research papers, is where your hypothesis is going to be located, right there in the abstract. And the abstract also kind of like details what was researched, like how many participants they used, maybe the procedure they used and what the outcome was, what ended up happening. And usually when you're writing your APA format, you should write this at the end after you've written everything else, because by then you've got the whole, like all of your thought together and it's all put down, and now you can just summarize it. So that's why we do it at the end. After the abstract, you will write the introduction section. And that's kind of what we're kind of highlighting right now. I'm teaching you what goes into an introduction section, and that is where your literature review is. It's where you find all the information that you want to research, what's the information supporting the research that you want to conduct. It goes here in the introduction. You're talking about the research you're going to conduct, why you're conducting it, and what past research supports your research, right? So if you're gonna study cognitive dissonance and you're gonna run an experiment about cognitive dissonance, well, you need to talk about cognitive dissonance in your introduction section. You need to find articles in the library about cognitive dissonance and put it into this section and talk about it. And one good way of writing, or kind of filling up this introduction section, is if you find an article about cognitive dissonance which supports the research you want to do, talk about what was in that article. What did they research? What were their participants like? What findings did they come out with? And you sort of summarize the article in your introduction section. Right? Okay, so yeah. And so also, just by the way, your literature review should have at least 3 peer-reviewed articles in your research papers, in your paper number 2. Paper number 1 is just sort of a practice APA format paper. It's shorter. I will give you the article that you have to cite and talk about. But for your main APA format paper, which is paper number 2, the one you write a rough draft for, and it's for your group research, and then you write a final paper, that's what I'm talking about. You need to have at least 3 peer-reviewed articles for that paper that you discuss, which should support the research that you want to do. Okay, so that is the literature review section of the paper, or the introduction section is how we refer to it. Then there's a method section. The method section is separated by several subsections. One of them is the participants. This is where I think I go through each one. One's participants, one's the materials or measures. The other is procedure, and the final section is statistics/results. The reason I say that is when you write the research proposal, you won't have any results yet because you're just proposing research you want to do, right? You haven't conducted the research. It changes to results for the final paper that you write after you've conducted the research, collected the data, analyzed it, and then you have results. That doesn't come until the very end of the semester, so don't worry about that yet. Okay, so here is sort of more of a description of what is in the participants section. It sort of describes the characteristics of your participants. And since we're all sort of stuck at home a lot and we are not like out at school and we don't have a lot of different, so here you're probably just going to describe your family or your very close friends that you do go around, right? And you might specify, well, we had a limited sample due to Corona, and hopefully you'll be able to sort of pool your partner's data with yours, so you can kind of describe who all the people are in your study. And then the materials section, this sort of explains any equipment you might have used. If you're testing someone's like their heart rate, how did you do that? What was the equipment? If you gave them a survey, you're going to explain what survey you used. Maybe give an example of some of the questions from that survey. How many questions were on it? Hopefully the surveys or scales that you use are ones that have already been tested and they're well-founded and if you recall, I put some links on the website for places you might find some good surveys to use. And then procedure describes every step-by-step process that you used in your research project. So it's like, how did you ask people to participate in your study? Then what were the exact steps you took to run the experiment with them, right? So that's the procedure. And then I should have put in here, does it have it there? Oh, here it is, sorry. Then the next section, subsection of the method section, is the statistics section. For the research proposal paper, the one that you're going to explain to me what kind of research you hope to conduct, you're going to just tell me what statistics you expect to be using after you've collected all your data. I hope that all of you will ask me to help you with that, because I'm sure none of you will know. So when we're going through like your research project proposal paper, I'll discuss that with you. Like, oh, this study that you're telling me you want to conduct, you'll probably be doing a t-test. So that's what you're going to write here. You're going to say, we are going to, for example, give me your hypothesis. We're going to test people on cognitive dissonance using a t-test, right? And it's only going to be about a sentence or two right here. After you've wrote your research proposal rough draft, you're going to be conducting your research and collecting the data. Then you're going to analyze it using statistics, because by then I will have shown you how to do that. Then you're going to write your final research paper and give me the results, right? That comes at the end of the semester. A lot of people try to give me results in their proposals for some reason. So don't be one of those people. Okay, so let's see. All right, so that concludes the methods section of the paper. The next section is the discussion section. Here, you review research from the various, like the research that you plan to do from various perspectives. In fact, the discussion section should be the final. Let me show you. Well, no, we'll keep going. So the discussion section is just sort of tells me if it's a research proposal paper, it tells me what you expect to find. It's like based on so-and-so's, and you kind of refer back to the literature section. Based on this paper that, you know, so-and-so wrote, we expect to find these results from our research after we conduct it, right? You might put in here what you think some of the strengths of your research study is, and what you think maybe some of the weaknesses of your research study is. And I can tell you that most of you, the weaknesses of your study is going to be not having enough people. So, and anything else you might think of. As we go through a few more chapters, you'll find out what makes a strong study and what makes a weak study. And the very end of the paper, on a whole new page, you write the references section. And like I was saying, it's 3 peer-reviewed articles required here. And I'll show you, okay, so, I'll do that next. Hold on a moment. Let's go back to 16. Okay, so let me now that you know what goes into a research paper, and I'll tell you another thing too. In the Toolbox webpage, you'll see example papers, okay? So here is what the layout of a research paper should look like. It should have a running head in the same format, with this title being all in caps. Running head with the R is capital, but not the H. It should be formatted exactly like this. It should have 1-inch margins all the way around. It should have this title page with the group researchers' names, as well as the full length title. This running head title should be an abbreviated title. You can see here, and so on. Here's the abstract. Here's a literature review. As you can see, it does not say literature review. It has sort of a shortened version of the title. It should never say literature review. And here you can see they're talking about the literature they went and found in the library, and they are citing it using APA format, which includes the author's last names and the year. Here's the method section with the participants, the materials, procedure. They kind of went above and beyond by putting a design section. You're not required, but if you want, you can. And here's the results section. If you recall, I said this is going to be the statistics section to start off with. This happens to be a final research paper, so it has a results section. Here's the discussion section. And then the references section. Now, if I go back, here is a final research paper with notes to it. So if you scroll down a little bit, you can see notes that kind of explain what all of this is and what's expected for each of those sections. See, it discusses how the running head should be formatted and so on. So it has detailed notes of what you should have here. Okay. Also, when you get to the final or when you're citing your sources in the introduction section and in the references section at the end, you're going to need to do that in proper APA format. So if you go here where it says references and citations, it has some links for sites that show you exactly how to do that. So in the in-text citations, the ones that are in the literature review section, if you click here, it kind of gives you the basics on how you would do that, right? So here's sort of an example. Oh, here we go. I like this better. So you can see they gave an example within parentheses, and I'll go over this a little bit more with you at another time. But just so you know that that resource is there for you on how to do the references section, APA format citations, as well as the in-text citations. And I'll show you how to do that a little more later. Purdue OWL is that website, by the way. So if you just want to go to the website and look around, there's more than APA format on that site. There's also MLA and some others. So. Okay, so with going back to Psych info, as we're searching the database, you should be able to sort of distinguish, now that you know what a research paper looks like, there's different kinds of research papers. That research paper, the example I showed you and just described, is what you would write for someone who's actually conducting a typical experimental research, right? But there's also, and let me show you. Let me see what this one is by looking at it. I have an animal picking at my door. This is what I just mentioned in the lecture when I said meta-analysis. Meta-analysis isn't exactly an experimental research. This is someone who actually went through a library database looking for other people's experimental research papers to use in this. So what they did was they found dozens and dozens of other research papers that had to do with this topic. And they gather those articles and they take their results, pool them all together, and then run analysis on it. So it's like being able to take dozens and dozens of other research papers on the same topic, coming out with their findings and running whole new analysis on it and come out with the finding. This is a very powerful research tool because it kind of tests to see if this is a thing, you know, how many other people are finding this same thing. It's like the power of maybe even sometimes they take hundreds of other research papers that or other researchers that studied the same thing to see if they all came out with similar analysis. It's a good check, honestly. It takes a lot of time though. And the way they do that is they take their findings, and you can see here's their abstract, that one, it describes it. And then here is kind of their literature review, but in it, they're kind of describing all the other research papers. And then here's the present study. And in the present study, they sort of describe the criteria they used to pick a research project. So they'll say, well, in order for us to use this study, it had to have this, this, and this, and this to include it, right? And then they'll take their findings, and in the methods, it describes the operational definitions, how they searched for these studies, criteria for inclusion, the procedure. Kind of looks like a real research paper, and it is a real research paper. It's just they didn't actually do any of the research on their own. They used everybody else's research and put it all in their paper. And they take their effect sizes and calculate it all. And that's how, it's very complicated, in fact. Okay, so let me get rid of that one so I don't. So that's what a meta-analysis is. Let's see what this one is. Here we have, they call it a summary in this one, but this is the abstract for this paper. They put it in another language here, which is nice. First, this is not in APA format because here they call it the introduction section, introduction. They're putting this in a format that fits this article's format. It's not APA format. So let's see. Let's see. Science and Sports wants it for this journal article. They want all their articles, this journal wants all their articles to be in this format. They want their abstract to be called a summary. They want their introduction section to be called an introduction, and so on. And here you can see they have a method section, which tips you off that this is probably an experimental research paper because it has a method section. And you can see they talk about their subjects. They call it subjects, not participants. Here they're describing all the instruments they used. Here's their statistical analysis and their results. So this is an experimental research study, you can see. And here's their finally, they use at least one thing from APA format. They call their discussion section a discussion section. And then they use a reference section. Now, if you find a research paper in your library review that you really like, I mean, it fits your research to a T, I would suggest you look in their reference section because you can find a whole bunch more articles that are on the same topic. So really, you only need to find one, and it's a shortcut. So just keep that in mind. So now I have all these others that I could use in my paper. Pick another one, right? Okay, so that's an example of a meta-analysis and an experimental research paper. There's one other one. Let me show you what it looks like. Here, okay. This one has an abstract. Here's the introduction section. More subtitles for the introduction section. And then just a conclusion. Where's the method section? That tells you that this is just a literature review. It's not an experimental paper. What they're doing is saying, hey, we found all this stuff and we think it's really interesting and we really think that someone should study this. And here's all the support. And now it's just waiting for someone to beg for the money to go and do this. That's one of the biggest problems in research, is getting funded. So this is just a literature review. They did the library research, said this would be a great idea if someone researched it. Go for it, right? That's all this is. Okay, there you go. Now, to do, for example, in Psych Info, to go and do a literature review in like Psych Info, here are some tips. So use a field such as title and author. So if you type the term divorce in the title, it requires, let me open it up. I hope it's still open for me. So, so if you write divorce here, it will, go to advanced search. This is what it's explaining. Go in here. We're in the regular web. Okay. Oh, if this does this to you, this is saying for Psych Info, what databases do you want to include? So it's including all this information. We don't really want, you could use newspaper sources. Actually, that might be a good idea. But if you're just specifically looking for psychology articles, literature review, peer-reviewed articles, you might want to make sure that's, we've got all the sources we want here. Here's psychology and behavioral sciences. We want that. I would just include that and none of the others. Those two might be okay. So just make sure psychology is clicked off. So here we go. Now we want, there we go. I just clicked advanced search. So if I put here title and I put divorce, the word divorce has to be in the title of all the papers. It'll search all the papers and look for only the ones that say divorce in it. If you don't care, just keep it open, right? And you can search all the different elements. You can search to see if the word is in the abstract, or you can search an actual author's name and so on. Okay, let's see. So you can use the these, like if I search divorce and child, it will have to have both of those terms in the search. If I use the word or, it will search any papers that have either or of divorce and child, right? If I use the word not, like if I type shyness, not therapy, it will search only articles that have the word shyness, but exclude any that say therapy in it. If you use an asterisk at the end of a word, so like their example here is child with an asterisk, it will search all the forms of that word. It will search child, childhood, children, childs, so on. That's really handy, actually. Now, remember I said there's 3 peer-reviewed articles required for your paper. Make sure that is ticked off. And to find it, it's right here. See, scholarly peer-reviewed. It will only pull up peer-reviewed articles for you. So you're not trying to weed through hundreds of other things just to find your 3 required peer-reviewed articles.
Professor, I have a quick question.
Sure.
For our week 2 lab, I noticed it says choose an empirical research study from a peer-reviewed journal. Would this be a good place to look for an article for this lab?
Would what be?
Would this website that we're we're watching right now be a good place to look for the journal used for this lab?
Oh, this is the school library.
Got it.
And yeah, so this is actually Psych info in the school library. So I would actually, and there's more than just Psych info, but it probably has the largest selection of peer-reviewed articles for you to find. So that's why I kind of use this as the example. But there's a couple of others too, and I think I have it in here somewhere. Oh, I just explained the and or not. Where did I put it? Oh, here they are. So there's also, we also have something called Psych articles, Psych books, PubMed's not bad, and so is Eric, but there's also sociological abstracts, LexisNexis, and so on. So you can use all of those too for psychology articles.
Great,
Psych info is probably most popular. Okay, so we did that. Oh, here's just another database that has a lot of science articles you can look for, a couple of links. The SSCI, which is the social sciences and sociology articles and criminal justice, if you're interested in that. Also, there's this website called the Web of Science. It has a database of all kinds of articles as well. And I just went through that. Oh, okay. So now you not only, you may want to find other articles or other support for what you research in other areas. And I recommend you do that, not just find peer reviewed, but also look through the news, other, you know, things on the web that you might find. Just make sure what you're looking at is a good source. So here it's saying to look on our website, the toolbox. If you go in the first drop down, oops, here in the toolbox, right here is for this first assignment for you to use. And it has links for you to use, find different sources. Of course, there's the OCC libraries link. And I think I have a little short thing on how to do a library research. And here is some other sources, supplemental search sources. And there is just tons of great listings here. Stuff you would not even remember, like Big Pharma Violation Tracker. Information about past presidents, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, all kinds of charities, the CIA Reading Room, CIA World Factbook, Climate Files, Clinical Trials, Corporate Rap Sheets, Corporation Wiki, the Department of Justice. That's a pretty good one. It has a lot of information there. It's good. You know, what they've been up to, what they've been studying, what's currently going on. Oops. Go back. Where's my back? Oh, there it is. I mean, just take a look through here. There's all kinds, National Archives, Little Sis, free database of who knows who at the heights of business and government. The lobbyists that go to Washington and try to get our money. Let's see, all kinds of stuff you would not believe it's in here. Ancestor Hunt, United States Census Bureau, the courts, Department of Treasury, U.S. Right to Know. You'll find a lot of, I think there's the FBI one in here, which is really cool. You'll find stuff in here that'll blow your mind. Oh yeah, there it is, FBI Vault. Okay, so also for this next, for any of the searches you do, I recommend using other other like alternative search engines instead of Google. So try, you know, Bing, DuckDuckGo. There's Dogpile, something called Internet Archive, the Start Page, Quant, Swiss Cows. You're going to get a lot more variety if you try other search engines because they all search the web differently. So I know everyone here is probably used to searching Google. That's why I want you to go and try other ones and see what happens. You'll be pleasantly surprised. As well as alternative news sources. So instead of looking through, you know, like the CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all the big ones that you always hear about, you should look into other like news sources that are smaller, lesser known. Smaller news agencies, contrary to opinion, tend to have a higher criteria for like putting out information because they're just getting started. They need to build their reputation. They have a lot on the line, a lot to risk if they put out information that's not accurate, right? So in fact, I actually kind of look for those more than I do anything that is like mainstream because I know that they have a higher standard they're trying to reach to establish themselves and get known. So I kind of like to look through those. And I also, if you notice I have a huge list of just various like news agencies that you may not have heard of. You're not stuck to any one of these. They're just there to help you look and give you ideas. You can find your own. But I have like some mega databases for newspapers. Like here, newspapers.com is a list of all kinds of newspapers throughout the years that you could imagine. You can just search and it'll go through all of them and find something for you, you know, topics of interest here for you. I like that one. That's pretty good. Okay, let's see. Where am I here? I think I'm rounding the corner just about. Oh yeah, I just went through that and that. Okay, so evaluating the research that you find. Make sure that you are looking at who is behind the research that you find on the web. Do they seem to have sort of some kind of ulterior motive? Are they trying to promote something? Who's backing them? If you can find that information, it's always good to know, do they have some kind of ulterior motive, or do they seem to be honestly, truly just trying to present the news? Usually news is incredibly boring and it's presenting the facts. They're not putting fluff, emotionally charged words, inserting their opinions. So whenever you see any of that, try to avoid it, move on to the next one, right? And if you can find more than one news agency or newspaper that's reporting on a topic that both seem to like be agreeing, hopefully, but not necessarily sort of puppeting the same words, that makes the point stronger, right? Sometimes news agencies kind of like repeating each other, and I kind of try to avoid the ones that are doing that. But if I can find two different sources that are reporting on the same thing, but they're kind of coming at it from different angles, I like that. Then I know that maybe they're reporting good information and it's something to pay attention to. Okay. All right. Yeah. So look at the credentials, you know, .org, .edu, and other organizations, make sure those are good sites to try. And we already went through all of this. All right, we made it through chapter 2. Let's see. Are y'all relieved? Okay, now I'm just going to explain, and hopefully you find it fun. This is what I was going to present to you on Wednesday, and it has to do with the research presentation you'll be doing with your groups. It's called Literature Review and Sourcing Topics. The whole point of this is for you to practice finding quality sources, not just from the school library, not just from, you know, one source, but from several different sources, and sort of try to prove a point with it, right? So you'll have, your groups are obviously in 2 or 3 people. And what you will be doing is you will be pairing against each other. So like it'll be like group 1 versus group 2. And these group pairs will have to come up with a hot topic to sort of battle each other out on. It can be a controversial topic. It can be about a current thing that's going on, current debates in the media. It can be conspiracy theories, politics, religion, historical event, just whatever your mind can think of. Try coming up with something that you find fascinating, that you would try to find supporting sources to prove or disprove, right? So each group member needs to find 1 to 2 sources to support your side of the debate. So when you go into Canvas, you may have noticed in the discussion section, I have here where it says group 15 versus group 16, right? That's where the groups will get together and decide what topic you want to do battle on, okay? So it's kind of straightforward. It's like group 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4, and so on. Okay, so your sources must come from at least 2 different types of sources. So I just showed you on the toolbox, you can use the OC library like we were going over in chapter 2, alternative news, or that page I showed you that had all kinds of other just various random sites you could find information from. So your sources must come from 2 of these 3 sources. And so the OC library, the news, or that page full of just alternative news sources, which was the supplemental search resources right there. Or no, yeah, exactly. So it must come through here. And I would include, if you don't find it in the supplemental search sources, you can find another website, any of your choosing, but use the alternative search, use an alternative search engine to find it. But make sure it's good. You know, a lot of these sources from this supplemental search resource are from reputable sites, right? A lot of them are like are governmental search sources, and so on, like the FBI site. This is a .gov, right? Okay. Okay, so you'll be making a PowerPoint presentation, and I have an example for you in a moment. I'll show you. You'll make a PowerPoint presentation, and then you'll have a question and answer session. So at the end, so after you presented your side and the group that is battling you presents their side, then we'll let the rest of the class ask questions. And throughout these 4 different days that you guys will be presenting, I hope to have heard from at least one question from every person in the whole class at some point on those 4 days. So we got to get you like interacting with each other. At the end, the class will vote on who won. Who used the strongest sources to present their side of the topic, right? I'm not asking, do you agree with their findings? I'm not saying, say you decided on abortion, for example. That's a pretty hot topic. And you use sources to present one side of the topic. And you came out with some very strong sources. But maybe personally, I don't happen to have the same view as you. But I think the sources you came out with were good. So my vote would be for you. Even though I don't agree with you, I think you had some good sources. I would vote for your group. Does that make sense to you? Okay.
Professor, I have a quick question.
Sure.
If we're technically debating or battling between the two groups, does that mean one group needs to take one side and the other group needs to take the exact opposite side?
Yes, it does. But if you think about it, things in life are not always black and white. Controversial topics can have more than two sides. There's sort of like, you can have a very strong leaning on one side and a strong leaning on the other side. And then you can have some ideas that are kind of somewhere in the middle too, right? So think of it that way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll show you on the labs. Let's see, did I put them in here? I hope. I'm hoping I put it in here. Darn. Maybe I put it here. Oh, darn. Well, I'll find it later. I'll show it to you next time. But I will have a little survey for the whole class. I wish I could find it. I'll find it later. Where everybody will be able to be voting. It's totally, no one will be able to tell how you voted. The only thing we'll be able to see is where the votes are leaning to. There's like a bar chart, I think it is, and it'll be like group 2 gets more votes or group 1 has more votes and so on. And you'll be able to see as people are voting who made a better case. Okay. All right.
Really quickly, is this presentation happening on Monday?
No.
When is this due?
So you will have those completed, and this is how it's going to work. Let's see. Labs. I think I have it on the syllabus too. Yeah, I think I do. If you go to the syllabus, you can see it better. Okay, see here where it says the presentations, lit review, and sourcing. Okay, so, yeah, and it says it here, here, and here. So groups 1 through 4 will be for the 22nd. Groups 5 through 8 will be on the 24th. 9 through 12 is on March 1st. And 13 through 16 will be on the 3rd, March 3rd. Okay.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Can we volunteer to go like first or something?
Well, that makes it difficult because you guys are battling each other. So if you think about it, if it's group 1 versus 2, you all have to agree to go at a different time. So that's why it's like 1 through 4 is on the first set of presentations, because that'll be like, all the battling groups, 1 and 2, and then 2 versus 4 or 3 versus 4. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let me continue. We're almost through this painful thing. So here's what's expected for the PowerPoint. You will have a title slide kind of like the APA format paper had a title slide. There's an introduction slide where you present your hypothesis. So it's kind of telling your side of the argument and what you're supporting. At least you should have at least one slide for each source. So use at least one slide to provide the highlights of your evidence using illustrations, images, graphs, charts, links. Make sure you definitely put a link to where your source is. Because during your presentations, I would like to look at where you found it, because we can look and see that as a class, how strong those, we might like pick one out of a group's presentation and say, hey, let's look at that source that they have and see, does that look like a strong source? You know what I mean? Or you could even demonstrate it to us during your presentation. Tell us, why is that a strong source? How come that one's a good one? Always cite your sources. And then it should have a closing slide. You're kind of recapping the argument. You can find the example in the toolbox. Here, sorry, on this side, the example presentation. I'll open that in a moment. Okay, so here's a grading. So number one grading criteria is the quality of the sources, not the topic or side of the topic that you decide. I'm a research analyst. I don't care what your opinions are. I don't care what your beliefs are or any of that. I am looking at the quality of your sources, okay? You can pick controversial topics, which I think is fun, and choose whatever side you want. It will not bother me one bit. It's good to try and practice being unbiased as a research person, right? When we do our projects, if I go to work for a company and I'm doing research for them, I should not let my opinions and values affect the research I'm doing for them, right? Okay. Each person must present. So yeah, the strength of your argument is based on the sources. And then asking and answering questions after everyone's done. And I put here together sort of a list of a whole bunch of ideas. You are not stuck to any one of these ideas. You can come up with something that's not on here, but this is just sort of to spark ideas for you and your group. As you can see, there's some crazy stuff on here, like our dragons and Sasquatch or the other real. Or you can be, it can be based on charged topics like religion or politics or so on, right? Let's see. Okay, this kind of goes into the sources and what's required, and I've already explained this to you. And I think the rest sort of tell you about the library. I think I've gotten through. Oh, here's that list of the alternative sources, which is also in the toolbox. That's 2 pages worth here. Oh, more alternative governmental original diaries and so on. Let's see. The alternative search engines. Okay, good. So here is the example. Where'd it go? Here's an example of a presentation that was done on chemtrails. Do they exist? By Jane Doe and John, by the way. So here's the hypothesis. That was the title slide. The hypothesis slide. So it is this team's, someone forgot an apostrophe, hypothesis that chemtrails do in fact exist. And of course, there's always the opposite side of it. Or you could even say they exist, but they're good. You can say they exist, but they're bad, etc. Right? So here is one of the sources, the Guardian article. So here, Bill Gates is backing climate scientists lobbying for large-scale geoengineering, which is basically chemtrails. The small group of leading climate scientists and financially supported by billionaires, including Bill Gates, were lobbying governments and international bodies to back experiments into manipulating the climate on a global scale to avoid catastrophic climate change. So that was the reason they had them. And it sort of tells what they put in them. Reflective particles of sulfur dioxide, which was sprayed 30 miles above the earth, and so on. So there's that. If I were actually giving this presentation, I would probably go to this source and go through the source and describe it and why I think it's a good one. And here's another source that was found. It's a .gov, GAO.gov. It's a coordinated strategy that could focus federal geoengineering research and inform governance efforts. This, in fact, is actually a research project proposal. So someone wrote a proposal paper, like you guys are going to say, we want to propose doing geoengineering research, right? Here is the NASA website or web page that describes them actually doing clouds and trails and geoengineering and what they were putting in them, which is lithium, barium, and trimethyl aluminum. Here is a video that was on YouTube, I believe. I think it's playable, maybe. Yes, it's playable, but if you guys want to watch it, you can. This is actually a United Nations webcast. It was a conference with Rosalind Peterson from the Agricultural Defense Coalition of California, where she's talking about doing contrails and ongoing experiments and geoengineering and so on. Okay, so those are the sources, and then you would have a final slide that sort of goes over the overview and sort of clinches it. This is the sources and why they're good and how they support our side of the debate, right? And that is basically it. Any questions? Wow, good.
I do have a quick question, Professor. We are supposed to choose our topic by Wednesday, right? Do we present that during the Zoom meeting, or do we turn that in?
You guys are free to choose your own topics. You don't need my permission for this one. The only one you need my permission for is when you're going to go out and do research on people. And that's to protect my fanny, basically, and to help you formulate your research so that you can kind of like, I guess, it's hard to, when you're first learning how to do research, it's really hard to figure out how to design an experiment so that you can measure it using statistics and stuff like that. And sometimes students tend to go off on rabbit trails and get away from the topic, or they get confused on how they would perform it and analyze it. So
okay,
that's
great.
why, yeah.
And,
Can I ask questions about like the debate, like the fight on like the debate between two groups? So we have like two groups have to agree in the same topic. Is that right?
Yes.
So when we gonna do that?
You can do, you guys can, that's why I created on Canvas these group 11 versus 12. You see where it says? So if I'm a student and I'm thinking, oh, I really like the idea of doing one on Sasquatch, I would go into wherever my group is and say, hey, what do you guys think of doing one on, you know, Sasquatch or whatever it is? And the rest of the group members should chime in and help decide on what it is your groups want to debate on. You can use the individual ones maybe to start with, to talk with your own group members and say, hey, if you can come to a conclusion with your own personal groups or start talking about it, maybe you find it easier to do it that way, or just jump in to where it says group 1 versus 2, for example, if you're in one of those groups, to start talking about what topic you guys want to do the battle on.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
And I had a question. For the approval, do we send you a message to Canvas about how it's going to happen, or?
You can either send me an email or inbox me in Canvas, or you can wait until the end of class and ask me about it.
Oh, okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
Can I have a question? Because I'm my partner, my group mate talk about the approval form and the experiment, because I live near my family, so it's easy for me to do the experiment. But with my group mate, he live alone, and because of COVID, he doesn't really want to can really talk to or manipulate people into the experiment.
So he's not even talking to one person?
Alex, do you want to talk about it? I don't know.
What she's saying is that she can experiment on expand her findings on her family, and which I can't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so is there anything I can do?
If you are able to make an experiment that's online, maybe you should try and think of something that can be done online. That way your family members and your friends can just do it online. There are a lot of tests online. If you go to the toolbox, that measure reaction time and different computer programs that will allow you to manipulate people, so maybe you can have them, for example, listen to music and then perform a reaction time online. Yeah.
Okay.
So get creative. There are ways to do experimental research that's online.
I see. Thank you so much.
So if he do it online, so I have to do it online too, right?
Yeah, you would probably. I mean, but you would be able to, if you wanted, you can have them all do it online, or if you wanted to be with them in person and watch what they're doing, but they would still be doing it online, you know what I'm saying? If I had a partner who's just doing it fully online, that would be fine, but I might take my computer over to my parents' house and say, hey, Mom, can you do this experiment, If you know what I mean.
I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm done. If there are no other questions, you guys are free to go, but otherwise, if you have more questions, I'll just wait until they are asked. Let me see. I have some chats.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys. You guys stuck it out with me. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So for the when we're debating, would we just share our screen with the PowerPoint or the slides?
Yeah, well, you'll be able to share in Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then because you said that you would recommend clicking on the link.
Oh yeah. You'll be able to share your whole screen in Zoom. I think I think there's something like advanced sharing, and it'll let you show your whole computer.
Okay.
So make sure you close everything you don't want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if let's just say one of my group members was sharing their screen, how would I click on my link for my slide?
Oh, I see. You can either switch sharing or just have someone, do it, be the one that kind
just signal them oh, can you click on it? Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, Professor. I also have a question.
Sure.
So previously I was able to find my group and I saw that I was paired with Jasmine, but now I'm in the discussions tab on Canvas and I don't know how to find my group. Like,
so you got to figure out if you're in like group 1, 2, 3, and to do that, I think if you go to the people tab, maybe you can see like group there. There's another tab here, it says group.
Yeah, so I'm on people and then
I don't know what it looks like from a student point of view.
Oh, groups, I think. Okay, everyone.
Do you see group?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, good.
Professor, I have a question.
Sure.
If we never get a response from our partners, what should we do?
I would say chug a lug on your own and the other student will lose the points.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. How can I do this so it's, if you are doing this on your own because your partner just didn't either drop the course or what have you. Let's see here. Each group member. So what I would say is you only need to present 2 sources, since usually, yeah, because people can present 1 to 2 sources. Yeah, because
I mean, I already feel like I'm kind of. I was just gonna say I already feel like I'm cheating because I have a master's, 2 master's degrees. So
that's great.
I'm well versed in APA.
Why are you?
I'm actually going back. Well, because my master's degrees are in finance, so I actually understand a lot about statistics. But I'm changing to get a PsyD, so I needed psychology classes. Yeah.
So did you get bored with finance or?
I liked the analytical side of things. I love statistics, so I'm in your boat with that. I think I just found it a bit monotonous.
I knew
so
BSF.
I decided to kind of. Yeah. So I'm very interested in anything statistical, t-test, z-scores. I love all of it.
Okay. So do you have any experience with statistical programs like software?
More from the business side, but I have used a few of IBM's software because I worked in a tech company and I was their financial analytics person. So I have an understanding of it.
Very good. Yay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Since the requirement is to use at least 2 different types. So if you can't get your partner on board, just find 2 sources from 2 different types.
Okay. And then we don't have class again until next Wednesday, correct? Because it's President's Day on Monday.
Is it really? Okay. Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
That's awesome. No, I'm just
so I will see you in like a week and a half.
All right. Thanks, Sabrina.
Bye.
Bye. Hi, Michael. Are you there? No? Okay.